And either this is just their imagination, or this is like a soothsayer who's pretending to get some sort of revelation to tell you what's going on behind closed doors that you have no way of knowing. And then again, like I say, just like with a soothsayer, they'll tell you 99 lies and one thing that's true. With what we do at Middle Nation, our basis for analysis is Quran and Sunnah. Our basis for analysis, the framework through which we analyze the world, is from a framework of revelation. That's our basis. And alhamdulillah, we've been more accurate than most analysts in terms of how things are going and how things have gone, sometimes quite far in advance. And that's because, in my opinion, that's because we're using Quran and Sunnah as the framework for the way we analyze the world. We as I've talked about many times, we know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the future of Islam and the future victory of Islam. And so we analyze current events from a perspective of a future historian, looking back on how these events contributed to or obstructed the progress towards that inevitable end, that inevitable future. So we're dealing with future history, and we analyze it that way. And that way we can better analyze, in my opinion, the way the world is going, because we know where the world is going. So we can see which steps are moving us towards that future and which steps are moving us away from that future. That's our framework for understanding. Whereas these other people, I don't know what their framework is for understanding or what their framework is for analyzing, and that's probably why they're mostly wrong. Musaylama, who, if anyone doesn't know, he was a false prophet, a man who claimed to be a prophet at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he sort of explained inadvertently his motives for why he was doing what he was doing, and it's the same motive for the false prophets today, secular prophets, as you said. It's the right way to put it. When he sent a letter to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, let's divide the world between us. You can have half and I'll have half. Meaning he's dunya motivated. He's motivated for power and acquisition in the dunya. And this is the same motivation for these people today. You'll see these so-called analysts who are actually nothing but propagandists for what they want to be. They're not making an actual objective analysis. They are propagandists, ideologues, telling you the way they want things to be, the way they want things to turn out, and trying to convince you that that's an inevitability, because they are driven by dunya desires from day one until now, in service to the owners and controllers of global financialized capital, for money, for influence, for prestige. They're only looking for increasing their status in the dunya. That's their motivation. Whereas if you are a Muslim and you are detached from the dunya, and you're thinking about Yawm al-Qiyamah, you're thinking about your meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and telling the truth and trying to do good in this world for the sake of your akhirah, and you're detached from the dunya, even according to their own understanding about what objectivity is, well, then you have to be detached, don't you? You have to be detached from the thing that you're analyzing. Well, the only ones who can be detached from their analysis of the dunya is people who are detached from the dunya. That's the only way that you can do it. If you are involved and deeply interested in your status in this world, your status in the dunya, well, you're never going to be objective. You'll always have a bias. You'll always have preferences. You'll always have a certain way that you want things to go. Your motivation is tainted because you have an interest. You have a divided interest in the analysis that you're putting forward because you want to get something out of it. Whereas if you don't care one way or the other, if people like what you say or they don't like what you say, if they approve or they disapprove, it doesn't matter to you because you're just looking at your akhirah and you're detached from the world. And so all we're trying to do, if you're objective in analyzing events, is to actually look at what Allah's plan is for the world and then trying to analyze and understand it piece by piece, how it's all coming together. And I think, again, this is part of psychological decolonization, at least for us, for Muslims. is to sort of reclaim a kind of epistemological sovereignty, where our sources of knowledge, our source of knowledge, is affirmed, and we don't just accept their narrative about themselves and accept their frameworks that they have said are the superior frameworks for understanding the world and interpreting reality, because they're simply not. They are on misguidance, and their own society and the way that they have managed their society is ample evidence of that. So we have to recognize ourselves, reaffirm for ourselves that revelation, that the Quran and the Sunnah are the absolutely supreme and non-negotiable sources of knowledge that judge all other frameworks, not vice versa. We don't use their frameworks for judging our frameworks or for judging our source of knowledge. Rather, we use our source of knowledge for judging their frameworks, and then we can start to get somewhere. But we have to reclaim that and not feel any hint of inferiority or embarrassment about interpreting reality and understanding reality and analyzing reality through the lens of Quran and Sunnah.